you've got to find leverage. You've got to find a reason why. And if that doesn't come, I don't think it is possible for people to sustain something.
Hi, I'm Mareya, otherwise known as the Fit Foodie. I'm a chef, holistic nutritionist, author, inventor, and mom. And I want to welcome you to my podcast. It's called Recipes for Your Best Life. And with every episode, I'm peeling back the onion on fitness, nutrition, health, wellness, and family. The truth is, you're the chef of your life. And for every important pillar, there's a great recipe worth sharing. So every week, we'll explore them together. Think of it as food for thought that you can really sink your teeth into. So join me, and let's squeeze the joy out of this life, because you only get one. Can I get a fork, yeah? You may be on the path to success. You know, you've got everything dialed in, your dreams, your plans for your future, your career. But look, if you don't have your food, fitness, and mental well-being in order, you can't crush your goals, no matter how hard you try. I interviewed Nick Bradley. He's a world-renowned business growth and scale-up specialist. He helps exceptional business leaders to unlock their full potential. He's also the co-founder of the Fielding Group. That's a growth accelerator that helps companies improve their business performance. And that's all about creating freedom, building wealth, and living your life without limits. The cool thing about Nick is, as an Aussie, he's a dedicated family man and has a strong background in physical fitness. He's completed over 67 events, including marathons, ultra marathons, and he's a qualified personal trainer and performance coach. And he shared with me that being committed to personal growth in your work and in yourself means having a sound foundation and understanding of health and well-being. And I wanted him to share that with us. And that's what this interview is all about. I hope you'll listen. Nick shares a lot of great points and feedback. And hey, if you think this is something that other people in your life would appreciate, invite them to listen along. Let's dive in. Nick, it's so great to have you on.
Hey, Mareya, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Nice to talk to somebody across the pond, so to speak. And we had a little discussion about what's going on in the world right now. So even though we are in this state of flux, it's nice to have this connection, this bond globally, I guess. But can you share a little bit about where you started in your path to where you are now?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, you've got the kind of accent from across the pond because I live in the UK, but then you've got this kind of weird sort of, everyone's probably listening going, what's that weird sort of sound he's making? Well, that's called being Australian. So I grew up in Australia and then I moved to the UK and I've lived in the US as well. So I've had many experiences, but yeah, so to give you the backstory, I've had a really interesting sort of journey, I suppose, to what I do now. I mean, what I do now is I work with businesses that are not performing, not growing as quickly as the entrepreneur or the founder would like. And I help scale those businesses to create value for them and value for shareholders and investors. So I've worked in sort of private equity, quite high stress environments for more years than I'd like to count. But where I come from is, as I said, I grew up in a little place called Adelaide, South Australia. And I suppose my journey to sort of having health and fitness is a key part of my identity, and certainly what I would call the strength and power to do the things that I have done and do now, comes from being really, really overweight as a child. So when I was 8, 9 years old, and I'll say this in kilograms because I'm not really good with all the other kind of systems.
I can help translate.
Good. I was 110 kilograms.
Okay, so that's
which
about
is
230 or so.
Yeah, as an 8-year-old. And now I weigh 72 kilograms as a 45-year-old. So that's 40 kilos difference. Lighter. So not quite 100 pounds, but quite a bit.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty tough time. You know, I was bullied a lot at school. It kind of came from, I suppose, just having kind of a lot of things going on in my time, my parents divorced and whatever else. But I had to transform myself in my sort of 8, 9, 10 years of age time because things just weren't working for me. And what I did is I committed to health and fitness and exercise. and I got very, very intentional about those things. So actually really taking a real sense of this needs to change because I'm not getting the results in my life that I needed. And so from the age of around 10 to 15, I went from being hugely overweight to being an athlete, competing in things like rowing and basketball for my state and my school. And from that, it was such a transformational period for me. I thought, I need to contribute back into this world of health and fitness. So I started training to become a personal trainer, and I did that while I was finishing school and going into university. I ended up starting my first business as an 18-year-old, which was a personal training studio. And we're talking about that in let's get the time frame right. So we're talking sort of late 80s, early 90s, when personal training wasn't a thing. And it was like, in Australia, most definitely, it was like, what is this weird thing that's happening? And that
could be a good or bad thing, right? I mean,
what's really funny? What's really funny about it is I had a really successful gym. I was doing about 30 to 35 hours of personal training one-to-one. I had group sessions going on. I employed 3 other people doing personal training. And what I was teaching, and it wasn't really from what my qualifications was, it was kind of what I worked out in my own head because it's what I had to do to transform, was what we would now call functional fitness. That type of thing. And well and truly before that, or CrossFit or anything was branded, I was just doing that type of stuff. And so that was my first real job before I got into everything I do now. So it's been just such a fundamental part of me for so long.
Yeah, really. And what a hard thing for an 8-year-old. I can imagine you, Nick, and looking at you now, it's hard to imagine, somebody so fit and in shape having gone through that. Do you think that because you went through it at a young age and you had kind of a traumatic experience that maybe encouraged a behavior that was you were just trying to find your way, can you identify that in people? I mean, I think we walk around as adults a lot wounded, people who have gone through things that never quite got healed. Do you feel like that is what makes you relate to people in a different way than maybe others?
Yeah, it does. It does 2 things that I kind of connect with. So the first thing is I wouldn't have done what I have done since. And we can go through some of that obviously today, had I have not gone through that transformational experience as a young kid. Both the pain of it, in terms of it was hard. I mean, I used to lock myself in the toilets at my school during recess and lunchtimes for bullying, literally every lunchtime. And I had to get out of that. So no one around me was going to do anything, right? So it was all on me. There was no one else going to lift me up. I had to find a way. And there's a certain amount of resilience and grit and strength that comes from that. So to your question, I notice it more in other people now. I'm very attuned to it. But I also have a really strong sense of trying to help. And because I've had that experience, I kind of know the thinking and the process that needs to happen for someone to be able to face firstly where they are if they're not comfortable with it, and then what to do about it. And whether it's a gift or whether it's something else, it's something that I've taken into both my personal life and also my career since.
I think it's a gift. I mean, I think empathy is a gift in a big way. And I would say that, you mentioned kind of nobody else really being able to do that for you. You had to do it on your own. Why did you feel that way? Why did you feel like you couldn't, maybe turn to somebody to help you? And how did you even identify how to do it? I mean, it seems like it would be a monumental task for someone who can, forgive me, but barely tie their shoes, to start thinking I can pull myself out of this ditch.
Well, I think this is something that a lot of people don't kind of connect with sometimes, is that, you can find the best gifts from pain, right? You've got to go to a really sort of low point before you kind of get to that level of frustration where you say enough is enough. And so my mum at the time had gone through sort of 2 or 3 marriages by that point. And so I had always had this instability around any male influence. So I wasn't going to put any additional pressure on her. My grandfather was probably the one person in my life at that point in time who was always there and present, and actually a very strong figure. So when I say I didn't have any support, I didn't know what to do, and no one gave me the guidance to do it. I just sort of self-educated. And so I kind of, back then I started reading magazines. I started, watching stuff and just started to become aware of I could change. And this is funny, right? The first connection I had was the old muscle magazines. You know, you see Arnold Schwarzenegger and, you know, Muscle and Fitness. And
I was just about to say Muscle and Fitness. I see the cover.
You know, Joe Wader or Weeder, whatever his name was. And, you know, that was it. I'm thinking, well, hold on. Well, how do you do that? This is amazing. And I was playing with these like He-Man figures at the time, and they were all these kind of muscly, athletic things. So my inspiration came from those sources. And then I just started to read and started to do things. And yeah, it didn't, I think the other thing happened is I went through puberty at the same time. So I think there was a bit of a change going on through that, which assisted, but I was still very much, what I was doing was changing my patterns, and I was certainly changing my psychology all through that period.
And so you self-educated. Was there anybody that you did model against, you know, not just people in magazines or the superheroes, but was there somebody that you identified with maybe in your community that you were like, yeah, I want to learn from them. I want to see how they're doing things because I can see the transformation? Or was it truly just researching?
It happens a little bit later, that part. So I'd kind of transformed myself to a certain level by myself. And then I started to become quite obsessed with the whole health and fitness game because I'd had so much value from it, from what I'd gone through. And then I met a guy called Duncan Blakey, who was the guy who actually started the first personal training studio business in Adelaide, and probably up there in Australia, actually. There would have been stuff happening in other states and other cities. And I didn't have much money. I was working part-time in a service station, but I paid him to train me. And I didn't, and he was really cool because he was like, well, you know, I normally charge a lot more money, but I'm going to help you. So for this amount of money, I'll train you 3 times a week. And I got in really, really good shape by the time I was sort of 18, 19. Not, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger shape, but that wasn't the goal. But in terms of where I was, you know, I was really fit and really functional. Everything just kind of worked really well. And I got a lot of, I felt really proud of myself at that point, which gave me a lot of energy for the other things that happened afterwards.
Where do you find that strength? Because I think, you know, right now we are living in such a strange time, and I'll be the first to admit, I mean, I've always, health, wellness, taking care of my mind, my soul, my body has always been my focus. But even the best of us, you know, with the best intentions kind of fall sometimes. And I just feel like now more than ever, it's been really tough. Do you have a circle of people or someone that you still look to? Is Duncan still in your life, or is there someone else that you look to that helps to kind of keep you motivated and keep, you know, maybe your priorities focused? Because I know it's pretty hard to do, or pretty easy to derail right now.
Yeah, it's really, for me, no, there isn't. And I think it's because I had such a painful experience when I was younger that I don't need any more motivation. What do they say? There's a famous kind of saying that, you know, show you the person, show you the boy, I think it is at 7, I show you the man. And it's such a formative part. So whether it's fear or whether it's just different standards that I have for myself now, or a combination of both, I will not allow myself to even go to that place that you're describing. So for me, I run every day. I do gym every day. I do yoga every day. I mix it up, obviously.
I was going to ask, what is your routine? So at 45, like what keeps Nick healthy and in tune so that you can go and mentor and coach the world?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll take you through it. I have a mix of things that I both feel are necessary for certainly my age as well. So I do have some context that certain things don't work like they did 20 years ago.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's not bad. I mean, and I suppose what I should share with your listeners as well is I did a whole heap of marathon and ultra marathon running. So I've done 67 marathons and 24 ultra marathons, 100-mile races.
And I was going to say an ultra marathon is 100 miles or more,
technically, it's defined as anything over a marathon. So a marathon's 26 miles. So technically, if you do 27 miles, you've done an ultra marathon. But in the kind of world of that community, and it really is a really great community, it's sort of 50-kilometer races, 50-mile races, 100-kilometer and 100-mile. It's in that sort of vicinity. 100 Ks would take me around about 10, 11 hours of running. 100 miles can take 24 hours. I mean, the fast guys do it much quicker than me, but even so, it's,
I just, the idea of it just hurts my knees.
Well,